Are you feeling overwhelmed and uncertain about how to scale your business sustainably? Do you have big dreams for your business, but you're struggling to turn them into reality? Or maybe you're just tired of sacrificing your health, your well being, time with your family, and your own self care, all in the pursuit of success. Not only is this not sustainable, but it can lead to increased stress and decreased productivity in the long run. Don't let the chaos of running a business hold you back any longer. Join our 12-month Real Women, Real Business Mastery program and start building the business of your dream with clarity and confidence. If you're ready to achieve six-figure plus revenue growth, rediscover your passion for your business, and say goodbye to overwork, then let's chat. Book a free business planning session at aboutshaunalynn.com/plan. Check out the link in the show notes. Did you know that according to the 2024 data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, 20.4% of businesses fail in their first year of business, 49.4% fail in their first 5 years, and 65.3% of all businesses fail in their first 10 years. So I thought this was a great topic to cover today, about talking a little bit about not only failure, but how to turn things around. I've known my fair share of fails. I don't think that there's any business owner that exists that has always done everything perfectly. Even the most successful businesses that you see out there, they have failed, I assure you. So it's important that we're not just focusing on like, oh, we see that, they've been successful, they've done all these amazing things. Yes, they have, but they all started somewhere. And it's not uncommon to hear that someone who's got one of the most successful businesses now actually failed at 10 other businesses before that. The word failure, I think, has been given such a negative connotation over the years because we sort of associate it with not being good enough. But the truth is that our best lessons in life come from our failures. So I thought this was a great topic because my first business actually almost failed in the first 2 years. So when I launched my company, so it was a home staging and redesign company. And this was back in 2008 that I launched the company. And I honestly could remember, so again, keep in mind, this is 2008. So it's a really big deal to have a website. Social media, not really a thing at that time, especially for businesses. And so I put so much effort into creating this website, built it myself on GoDaddy's Website Tonight platform. I was pretty proud of myself. For anyone who doesn't know, I actually have a background in analytics. I actually have a Bachelor of Mathematics degree. So I also studied computer science with that. So I have a fair bit of technology knowledge. So back in 2008, building your own website was kind of a big deal. Just saying. Anyway, so 2008, built my own website and it's ready to go live. And I can remember hitting that publish button. I can't remember exactly what the button looked like or what it said, but I remember like, yep, we're going live here. And I pushed my website out there and I honestly thought the phone was just going to start ringing. I was just sitting there kind of anticipating it. And I'll admit, there's part of me that was like, it's probably not going to ring like right away, but it'll ring soon, right? Like I just felt like I've got this incredible service that I'm offering. It's called home staging. And looking back, of course, nobody really knew what home staging was back in 2008. Not in my area anyway. It was, it had been around for decades, but it hadn't really gained the popularity and the common knowledge that it has today. And so nonetheless, put this website out there. I don't get any phone calls immediately. It's a little disheartening, but that's okay because people are just going to get it. And so, I started networking and I started putting together some promotional materials, postcards and flyers and business cards and all the things and, start making connections and getting out there. And honestly, people just didn't get it. I would tell them what it was that I did. And I just assumed if I tell them what it is that I do, they're just going to hire me, right? Like they're just going to want to use my services. So about 2 years into my business, my dad actually got sick. So anyone who's not aware, I have talked about this previously in the podcast. It's not necessarily a secret. My dad has multiple sclerosis. It has left him at this stage with no mobility. But back in 2010, he was using a wheelchair, but he still had, a decent amount of functionality overall, and ended up with a bit of an MS episode, though, that landed him in the hospital. So he was pretty much laid up in the hospital, couldn't really do much for himself. And so, I found myself traveling to see him. My parents at the time lived 3 hours away. And so I was helping my mom with his care while he was in the hospital, because even though he's in a hospital, because he can't do much for himself, he needs someone to be there with him to support and assist with, various different activities. So a couple years into my business, my dad's sick, driving back and forth to see him and my mom in support, and honestly taking quite a bit of time off of my business, and didn't really think much of it, to be honest, until my dad said to me one day, and let me be clear here, my dad has always been my biggest fan and one of my biggest supporters. But he looks up one day, and I can't remember how it came up. We are talking something about the business, and he's like, "You know what, honey, you gave it a really good shot." And I said, "What do you mean, Dad?" He's like, no one can say you didn't try. You put your all into this. I'm really proud of you. You gave it a really good shot." I said, "Dad, I still have my business." And he says, "Well, okay, who's running the business right now?" I'm like, "Oh, well, I don't really have any jobs on the go right now." So I guess when I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, I own a business, but if the business isn't actually getting any work, is it really a business? So this kind of forced me to reflect on what it is that I wanted to do, because it would have been really easy to say, "You know what, I'm just going to throw in the towel." As he said, I gave it a really good shot, but had I? And that was part of my reflection. So here's the reflecting that I did. The first thing was, what would life look like if I wasn't a home stager? At this stage, I really felt that I'd found my calling. I really felt that this was what I wanted to do. And so I had to reflect on, what would life look like if I decided not to be a home stager? Would I start a different business? Would I go find a regular 9-to-5 corporate job again? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, yeah, you know what? Staging is definitely what I want to do. So then my next reflection had to be, well, what have I really given it my all? Have I really tried everything? Because the reality is that I think I still just expected that people were just going to be able to immediately understand how it was that I could help them and want to hire me. So here's what I did to turn things around, because obviously I'm sure you're listening to this and thinking, well, she must have turned things around, because I have mentioned that I was a stager for 15 years. So obviously 2 years into the business, something had to change. So here's what I did. I got real clear on exactly who my client was and what they needed from me. And this was a huge exercise to do. It wasn't something that happened overnight. But here's what I did. I reflected on who they were and what they needed from me, but I also reflected on, who am I? What do I want my business to look like and represent? When I first launched my business, I knew that I wanted to give the brand of creativity, but I feel like I held back on that. And this is something that actually goes back to my childhood days, where I was always just a little bit quirky and unique and liked to dress a different way than everybody else. And didn't feel that was overly embraced at that time. I'm not going to tell you what decade that was, but let's just say it was a while ago. And so, I feel like when I launched my business, I feared some judgment. And I'll be honest, actually, I've had pink in my hair since 2008, but my first set of headshots, I took the pink out and put it back in after the headshots were done, because I was concerned about putting that sort of image out there. And so when I shut down in 2010 and did that reflecting, I realized, I got to embrace exactly who I am. And I want my company to really reflect me. I want people to feel like when they meet me, it aligns with what they expected based on the brand image that I'm putting out there for my business. So I knew that with that meant that I needed a new logo and a new website and all new marketing materials. I didn't change the name of my company, but I definitely changed all of the branding. Now, of course, that in itself would have probably helped my business because my initial branding wasn't really that great, to be perfectly honest. I kind of did most of it myself. And the next time I hired an actual professional designer to do it. But I think where I really nailed it, though, was going back to those who do I want to work with type clients. And I actually realized, and this is going to be a different business model for whatever business you're in, but especially if you're a home stager and you're listening to this and thinking, I want to model my business after this is a great way to do it, but it's not the only way to do it. This is just what I knew worked well for my business. I wanted to work with the people who were working to really build something. They wanted those relationships. They wanted to build something solid with their clients. So I was focusing mostly actually on brand new real estate agents. So these are the people who actually have no real business for me at the moment. But I wanted to nurture those relationships so that as they grew, I would be there supporting them and they would be there supporting me, and we could build our businesses together. And to be perfectly honest, this actually worked really, really well for me for quite some time. So I rebranded, I relaunched the business with a new logo, a new website, a new me. I really leaned into my authenticity in my branding. And authenticity has definitely become a bit of a buzzword these days. I think we hear this way too often. But the reality is that it is still valuable. People do value true authenticity. You can't have fake authenticity. It is literally an oxymoron to have unauthentic authenticity. But sadly, this is what a lot of people are putting out there, is this image of authenticity that is really false and not as transparent as they're making it seem. And for me, I knew exactly who I was and what I wanted to be. So I wanted to lean into that. So I figured all this stuff out, relaunched the business, and I will say things definitely turned around. They definitely turned around for me, but it's not as though I just stopped making mistakes and I had it all figured out. And I also couldn't just sit back and think, okay, I've rebranded, I've relaunched myself, but if I just keep doing the same things that I was doing before, things wouldn't necessarily change. So I sat back and kind of took a look at what was I doing well and what could I do better? And I had to really focus on what has led me to the successes. Like after I rebranded, I started seeing a real pickup in sales. I started attracting my ideal client. I started getting more and more business. My goal was actually to double my sales within that first year of relaunching. I actually did 5 times the previous year's sales. Now, don't get me wrong, the previous year's sales were not spectacular, but they were there. So to do 5 times that amount, due to the rebranding, due to this, new vision of the company, was pretty spectacular. And so as I continued to grow, as I continued to experience more success, I spent the time to reflect on those successes as much as the failures. And I think this is something that a lot of businesses fail to do. We will analyze to death our failures of what went wrong. Sometimes we don't take enough accountability and we spend a lot of time pointing fingers, whereas, we can kind of look internally and say, well, I made this mistake and this is what I would do differently next time. But we don't tend to spend that same amount of focus and energy on our successes of why did this work? So that's what I really started doing, of, figuring out what it was that people really liked about working with me. And that helped me to grow the business even more, because it forced me to kind of look at what is the real benefit to working with me? What is the real benefit to the services that I'm providing? What is the real benefit to what I'm doing? And now when I say benefit, I mean exactly that, benefits, as in what's in it for someone else? What makes it important for them to utilize my services? What is the outcome that I'm giving them? They don't necessarily care about how I do it. And don't get me wrong, I've built some incredible systems behind the scenes. I have trained, hundreds, possibly thousands of stagers on how to perform consultations the way that I did, how to execute their staging services, because I really did create some phenomenal systems for doing all of this. So yeah, the processes and the systems and the execution that I had behind the scenes was, I don't want to say flawless, but pretty darn close to it. And that was a big part of what people appreciated about me, but not because I had systems and processes, but because of what they got out of it. selling a house is a very stressful time. And I'm taking that stress essentially away from them by providing them with the solutions that they need, by making their job that much easier so they can focus on, dealing with the next place that they're moving into, dealing with their family, navigating all of those changes, whatever it is that they need to navigate from the mortgage perspective and financials and everything else. And I took care of, I will get your house prepared for sale. I knew that if I could figure out what I was doing right and why people benefited from it, it would allow me to continue to have some of that success. So when you are operating a business, you need to have the complete package. You need to have your marketing nailed down. That means understanding exactly who your clients are, understanding what they need from you, like really understanding what they need from you, and then really directing your marketing directly at them. If you put up a social media post and say, hey, everybody, we're doing all of these different services, most people are not going to look at it. But let's say you're running an aesthetics salon and you put up a post, you're like, oh, we've got eyebrow waxing and we've got manicures and pedicures and spa massages and all these different things are being put up there. Not necessarily going to get anyone, but if you do one particular post that says that you're doing pedicures, and then you talk about, 'tis the season to, go on beach holidays, we want to make sure that your feet are looking great in their sandals. Or maybe it's more of yes, we all want the pretty looking feet, but how do our feet feel? Like, oh, are your feet feeling dry after the winter time? We can fix all of that. Here's how we remove dead skin or whatever you want to say. Obviously, this is not the type of business that I'm running, but you get the idea, right? That the idea is that you need to do a focused post or messaging. And I'm saying post because I think most of us are getting our messaging out on social media, but the same thing goes for your website, your postcards, any type of marketing that you're doing. It should be very specific about exactly what it is what is the pain point that you are solving. This is not a new concept by any means, but it's become more and more important as there's more and more noise out there. So like I said, if you want to have success in a business, if you don't want to be in that list of businesses that fail, if you don't want to be another statistic of failure, you need to have the complete package. This means having your marketing solid. This is your messaging. This is understanding who your clients are and understanding the best places to communicate and how to communicate that. You have to have your pricing nailed down. This doesn't mean you have to be the lowest price. It could even mean you're the highest price, but you need to be really clear on exactly what your pricing is and what you are offering for that price. This is, I think, where a lot of people kind of fall short is they don't understand that offer. Great book to read is Alex Hormozi's $100 Million Offers. He really breaks it down really well into, what exactly, what are the components of a really solid offer? And this is your service. Your offer is essentially the service or your product, whatever it is that you are trying to sell, that is your offer. But how do you package it in a way that makes it super compelling and that ensures value? If you are offering something at a price that it's not actually worth, you're not going to sell it, right? So you need to get all that clear. You also need to get your customer service down. You need to ensure that you are connecting with your clients in a meaningful way, especially in the day and age where there are so many ratings type websites where people can review your products, your services, et cetera. We really want to make sure that we're getting those 5-star ratings every single time. So I want you to be as successful as you possibly can be. So here's the tips that I'm going to leave you with. The first thing is I want you to see your failures as lessons, but I also want you to see your successes as lessons. And I want you to spend the same amount of time and energy evaluating these, not beating yourself up for what went wrong, but simply evaluating it and identifying where changes could be made for next time. As long as you keep making progress, as long as you keep moving forward, you will be successful if you are following the steps that you need to follow. So if you want some help creating your marketing messaging, I actually share my 6-step SellSmart system in a free webinar replay that you can get from my website. It's called 6 Steps to Skyrocket Sales. Simply go to aboutshaunalynn.com/skyrocket. So it's 6 steps to skyrocket sales. I share my 6-step SellSmart system. This is the system that I use, that I teach all of my clients to use in order to be able to create that marketing messaging that's going to be compelling, that's really going to connect with your ideal clients. And you'll want to do this for essentially every service that you offer if your ideal client for those services is different. So if you want more information about perhaps how I might be able to support you on your journey, you can also set up a free introductory business planning session with me. Simply go to aboutshaunalynn.com/plan, PLAN, and check it out. Set up a time. My calendar's on there. Would love to have a chat with you. All right, that's what I've got for you here today. So you're going to go out there and you're going to crush it. You're going to get your clear on your marketing messaging. You're going to make sure that your pricing is solid, your service is solid, your offer is solid. You've got all of those boxes checked. And if what I'm saying here today resonates with you, then I hope you will tune in again next week and allow me to continue to be a part of your journey. I would also love it if you shared this episode with someone in your circle, share another woman that you feel can really benefit from what I'm sharing here today. That would be such a gift to both myself as well as her. Be sure to leave us a review and don't forget to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, keep thriving.